put up for sale after the private buyers couldn't keep up the costs. The Victorian structure is to go under the hammer, and it's to be sold at auction at a guide price of just £200,000. You think you can't get much for 200 grand these days, but you could buy Southsea's legendary pier. Frankie?
Well, Chris Carnegie was on Steve Harris's show on Friday evening, and he did a great poem about this, because the estate agent said that the £200,000 mark is about the same price as a 3-bed semi-detached house. So you could either buy a pier or a semi-detached house, which is quite interesting. But the historic pier, the South Parade Pier in Southsea, is one of only 55 private piers left in Britain. And again, like you said, Alex, there's that price guide of £200,000. But before you contact your bank manager, be warned, the buyer of the pier is expected to face a bill of £2 million to restore the property to its former glory. The pier has been put on sale by owners Fred Nash and Dawn Randall after going into administration twice in the past 18 months, as well as being partly closed because of safety fears. The Victorian structure was built in 1878 and has suffered from 3 fires, the first of which took place in 1904, and it was rebuilt and renovated. God, stumbled over that one. In the 60s at a cost of £85,000. So it will go under hammer on Wednesday, December 12th at the Agassiz Bowl in Southampton, if anybody is interested to know that as well. But what do our listeners think about piers? I went out on the streets of the South to find out.
I remember when I was a child, I used to go on pier at Bournemouth, and there used to be slot machines and goodness knows what. My parents had a beach hut, but we used to have a lot of fun on the pier. Yes, I think piers are good.
I think because I've got 2 older children, they prefer the pictures, but Littlin he'd love the beach, I think.
No, I think the things about piers is you've got to have tradition, and I think tradition's disappearing. I think that's actually a bad thing. So no, I mean I take my family are a bit grown up now, but we always went down to Bournemouth, down to the pier. We're not from round here, we come from further up north, but no, we've always visited the piers, and when our granddaughter's old enough, we'll take her to piers then as well.
So there we go. So the Agassiz Bowl in Southampton is the place to be on Wednesday, the 12th of December, if you think that you fancy bidding for this legendary pier in Southsea. Frankie, you got us a guest on this.
Well, let's speak to a man who's wanting to take up this challenge. Leon Reis is trying to put together a charitable sort of organisation to rerun the pier. So, hi, Leon.
Hello, Alex. How are you?
Oh, it's Frankie speaking to you just at the moment.
Sorry. Hello, Frankie.
That's all right, Leon.
I'm here too, Leon, and you sound like you're on a very bad, dodgy line. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Right, okay. There's a little bit of a delay, like we're calling the outback of Australia, but I believe...
Well, I am an Aussie, so there you go.
Oh, well, there you go. You're just so used to doing transatlantic phone calls or long-distance phone calls while moving around the world. Maybe you leave a bit of a gap at the end of it. Right, we've got questions for you. First one from Frankie.
We do. So, Leon, why do you think it's important to keep Britain's piers open?
Piers are unique. I mean, first of all, they're beautiful pieces of architecture, usually. Secondly, they're almost always bound right into the community. For instance, in Southsea and Portsmouth, we've got people who were born because their parents met dancing to the greats of British rock and roll on our pier. You can't get much more intimately connected than that. And then thirdly, there's all the history. People marched down our pier to embark for D-Day, Canadians and British soldiers who went to Juno Beach. Some of them died, and the point of them going there was to liberate Europe. And our pier did that. There's so many memories attached to our pier. Winston Churchill was made a free man of the city of Portsmouth in that pier. So was Viscount Montgomery, who led the British forces.
So you're trying to register a charity to get you to buy the pier, Leon?
Yes, we don't want the council to own it. They used to own it. They didn't do a very good job, so they took out £500,000 in about 1996 and let go of it. That was a good idea. Unfortunately, the people they sold it to couldn't make it pay, and the people they sold it to, who are the current owners, are having all sorts of trouble. They've made losses.
What's the future for the pier then? Because usually people just fill them full of fruit machines because it's the only way that they can get them to be able to half pay their way. These things aren't making any money.
That's right, and the reason for that is people aren't looking at them as a community. They're looking at them as a business. They're trying to screw every last penny out. And we say that the key is to keep them full of people enjoying themselves, even in the off months. There's lots of people who would love somewhere warm and welcoming to go in the winter. There's many community uses we can make a pier fulfill.
If I'm thinking of warm and welcoming in the winter months, I'm not thinking of a pier, Leon.
Let me tell you that 18 months ago we had a meeting of our neighbourhood forum for the first time on the pier in January. And we got 160 people turned out on a dark night to a dark pier. There were no lights up the side. 160 people on a January night. People love that pier, and they will go to that pier before they'll go anywhere else if they're given the chance.
Okay, so what are your chances then of raising the money? How much money do you need to raise? 200,000 to buy it, and then you're going to need a couple of million to do it up.
Well, that's right. We can't see that. I mean, we think it'll be £200,000 or less. That's if the mysteries of this auction actually ever take place, because there's a lot of strange things going on here. But the minute anybody buys that pier, they've got an obligation under the listed building regulations, because this is a listed building. If you own it, you're duty-bound by law to look after it. And to look after this pier, our engineers tell us it's going to be north of £1 million. You then also need working capital until you can get the pier working again, so that is more money. So it's not just a case of getting us enough money to buy a semi and going and buying a pier. You would be immediately in debt and in trouble if you did that.
And then you've got to make it a magnet for people. And how are you going to do that? What are you going to do? If you're not going to fill it full of fruit machines, what are you going to do with the pier to get people back on it?
We have a wide range of ideas about that. I mean, let me tell you about the people who are working with me. It's not just me. We've got 2 chartered civil engineers.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter who they are. What are you going to do to get people on it? I mean, a couple of civil engineers are not going to get me on a pier. What are you going to do to bring the people
But we
back?
also have hotel managers, music promoters. We've got business people who know how to do these things.
Yeah, but do what, Leon? Do what?
Well, that would be telling.
No, come on, there are no secrets. What are you going to do to get people back on the pier?
Well, first of all, you've got to have places where people can sit down and enjoy themselves with a nice cup of coffee, a decent piece of cake, a lovely cup of tea, watch their kids having fun. That is the absolute critical baseline that this pier needs to fulfill.
Right, so you want people sat in deck chairs, relaxing, just taking in the sea breeze and watching their toddlers play?
That is the first part of it, but it's not just deck chairs. We see something slightly more sophisticated than that. We need a range of cafes that people will go to. That pier is in the most magnificent location on the south coast. It's got a better view, for instance, than the famous Brighton Pier, because Brighton Pier looks out to sea. We look out to sea with a busy shipping lane and the Isle of Wight.
I'll tell you what I want to do, Leon.
Whatever.
I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to come on and do the big hour with me. I'm going to give a whole hour to sell us the idea of why we should save South Sea Pier, because I personally, like most people, I'm sure, why wouldn't you want to save it? It's a very, very important part of South Sea history. But I need you to come to me with a case, and you've got an hour to sell it to me.
Okay.
So, because at the moment you sound to me like you're a little bit unprepared, you're not really sure what you've got planned.
Well,
because, a few cafes is not going to make that pier pay for itself.
We know intimately the finances of that pier.
Right, well, come in and do the show and sell us South Sea Pier.
Okay, but in the meantime, if people look at Facebook and have a look at the People's Pier, then they'll find us.
All right, okay, so you go to Facebook and what do you look up? People's Pier or...?
The People's Pier.
The People... Why have you not just got it down as South Parade Pier in South Sea, or South Parade Pier, South Sea?
we need to change the emphasis. We want this to be owned by local people.
I know, but if I was looking
seaside lovers.
But Leon, if I was looking for South Parade Pier, I would look for South Parade Pier or Southsea Pier. I wouldn't look for People's Pier.
We have Southsea Pier as a website, and that will direct you to the rest of it.
All right. Okay.
We've got the names covered. The trouble with the name South Parade Pier at the moment is it's covered in controversy and...
Well, at least have Southsea Pier, and you don't want the names covered. You want one name, so everybody's going to the same place. Otherwise, you're diluting it all.
You're quite right.
All right, Leon, we look forward to seeing you in a big hour. I'll put you back to Alan. We'll get you in soon, and we'll see if we can save the pier.
Alex, I love you and all your listeners. Thank you very much. We need your help.